Welcome to episode 572 of Salsidoparanormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight we are continuing our review of the book of Ceremonial Magic by Arthur Edward Waite. As always, you can find all episodes of the show. Let me see here. I lost my spot. You can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media and other ways to contact me at the podcast page. There we go. And that is salsidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or accounts of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live streams on Discord or you can listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds or on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of the show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Troubled Minds Radio comes on. And as always, I want to thank Michael Strange, host of Troubled Minds Radio, for putting these shows on the network and having me there. And if you'd like to support the show, there are a couple different ways to do that. You can check out my books over on Amazon, paranormal fiction and nonfiction. And you can also make one-time donations through PayPal. And help is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows, from equipment to research materials to travel expenses in some cases. And that covers all of that. Going to continue this review here. I did want to mention I cut out most of the second part of the book. There's only 2 parts of this book here because it is 90% just ritual and ceremony descriptions. There's no way around it, even with summarizing it all, having the AI summarize it all, which is what I've been doing for these shows. That's what I do for books that are in the public domain. And it's just, that's all there is in those sections. And so you can find that book online if you really want to look into all those things. But the important thing to me is that we just cover the history of magic, at least according to this book, and maybe we'll look into some other books if I can find some good ones that talk about the history that don't go into the actual procedures. Then we'll do those in the future. But anyway, so just wanted to point out that you're gonna hear like a big jump at one point in terms of the numbers and chapter numbers and all that, section numbers and all that. So. But for now, we still have a little ways to go before we get to that point where we skipped, or where I skip the material. So, and again, just to point out that how I do this, I use AI to summarize the material, and then I read those summaries here, and then we talk about them as we go. So, getting to that here, we're on. Part 1, Chapter 4, Section 4, the Grimoire of Honorius, says that it has been severely condemned, but most accusations against it are false or misrepresentations. It is not Kabbalistic as Eliphas Levi claimed, but is permeated with Christian elements. Let's see here. Levi falsely asserted that references to sacrificing a kid actually mean killing a human child. That's because for anyone who doesn't know, a young goat is actually known as a kid. So that's kind of odd. Even back then, they were using that word for a child, kid. I don't know. It's weird. It says there is no basis for this claim. Misunderstandings arise from confusing it with other grimoires like the Grand Grimoire, Proper analysis shows it to be a clever imposture designed to deceive the ignorant. Falsely attributed to Pope Honorius III, who died in 1227. It actually dates to the late 16th century, with the first edition appearing in 16th century? That'd be 1500s. Anyway, with the first edition, maybe they mean printed edition, appearing in 1629. The real Pope Honorius wrote extensively, but this grimoire was not among his works. So here again, you have all these different grimoires or books that are said to be written by someone, and then there's debate or outright just dismissal that says that no, this person didn't write this book. I find that to be a point to touch on a lot, because then who are these people and where are they getting these? How are they coming up with or getting all these ideas and coming up with what they're doing supposedly? So it says a rare book of exorcism formulae attributed to him from 1529 may be the source of the attribution. The text begins with a lengthy pseudo-papal constitution claiming to share the power of commanding spirits, once reserved for the popes alone, with the clergy. This is framed as benevolently sharing the knowledge to prevent them being appalled by exorcising the possessed, but the true aim is to legitimize infernal magic and necromancy under the guise of apostolic authority. Let me see here. Lost my spot. Okay. The text begins with a lengthy... nope, I already read that. This is framed as... And I already read that. I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. Several French and Italian editions of the Grimoire of Honorius were printed in the 17th to 19th centuries, but the original is very rare. An extended manuscript, a manuscript copy once owned by the Abbé d'Artigny, I'm saying that terribly wrong probably, has not been traced. And so that's the end of that section. So again, I just want to point out, that's like multiple times now in this book that other sources of information have been pointed out as being not accurate in various ways, whether it's the time that they were put out or the author or whatever. So, and yet this is still all stuff that that I'm guessing is still looked into and thought of today and possibly even used today. So it says Section 5, Minor and Spurious Rituals of Black Magic. Some black magic rituals are merely speculative creations of booksellers, while others are obscure works that never gained influence. Both are considered spurious, but may still have points of curiosity. The Veris Jesuitarum Libellus, or true magical work of the Jesuits, falsely claims to have been published, so here we have it again, in Paris in 1508. This date reveals the imposture, as the Jesuit order was not founded until 1556. It contains conjurations for evil spirits, an invocation of an angel, and St. Cyprian's invocation of angels and conjuration of treasure-guarding spirits. The conjurations summon entities to bring the magician golden treasures from the depths of the sea or the abyss. They are repetitive in nature. Saint Cyprian's citation of the angel who visited Lot and Abraham is an example of white magic in quotation marks. Excuse me. For receiving aid in need, but is too lengthy to include. A procedure, and this is the AI speaking here, because I did tell it not to include any specific rites or rituals or ceremonies. A procedure for magically finding hidden treasures is mentioned, connecting to the core aim of much ceremonial magic, but is deferred to the section on necromancy. The Praxis Magica Fausti, or magical elements of Dr. John Faust, in quotation marks there, excuse me, claims a spurious origin consisting of a few cryptic conjurations and illustrations in the style of the 17th century. The formulae are Christian in character, but interspersed with meaningless words and names. Section 6, the Black Pullet, or Pullet, I'm not sure, Pullet. This belongs to a class of largely unserious, that's quite the word, French occult works from the late 18th century, along with derivatives like the Queen of the Hairy Flies, that's quite the title, and the Green Butterfly. It centers on a series of talismanic rings incorporated into a magical romance narrative. Many of the talismans seem original, not drawing on existing occult symbolism. The let me see. I don't even know what that word is. Grandiloquent? That's quite the word. I'll look that one up. Title promises revelation of magical secrets from ancient sages, discovery of treasures, power over spirits, and other things there. But the text does not really deliver this. Set during Napoleon's Egyptian expedition, it tells of a French officer who is rescued by an ancient Turkish magician living in the Great Pyramid and instructed in the powers of 22 magical rings and talismans and the creation of the gold finding black pullet. The officer returns to France, uses the talismans, threatens publishers of pirated editions with Midas-like ears, that's weird, but is apparently unsuccessful in preventing publication. The work borrows material from the Comte de Gabalis and is connected to black magic through its characters and their purported power over spirits. It provides some talismanic words and formulae for evoking and commanding the spirits, saying they will work even if rings and talismans are made of base materials. Overall, it is an imaginative occult fantasy, drawing on magical ideas, but not a serious or instructive esoteric text. Later critics dismiss it as a paltry imposture. Let me see here. So that's the end of that section. I find that to be something that is fascinating in a way, the fact that some of these purportedly magical texts are stories. So that's something that, if you think about that, stories have been around for so long. And of course, it's a story, but it's a story of magicians and magic and things. So that is, if you think about that, I mean, that's going on to this day, except they're not really considered to be books of magic. They're considered to be fiction. And so anyway, just want to point that out. Looking at the chat here from DG, a young child back then was a babe, like to 5 years. Okay. Could have been just a translation there from the AI too, using kid instead of babe. But anyway, let's see here. We have time for at least one more section. Let me see here. Okay, so section 7, Talismans of the Sage of the Pyramids. So this sounds like this is that story that was just talked about in the last section. It says the text describes 20 magical talismans, each made of satin embroidered with specific, I have a hard time with that word, colors and figures, along with a corresponding magical ring. Each talisman has specific powers that can be activated by holding it, wearing the ring on certain fingers, and speaking the associated magical words. These powers include conjuring celestial and infernal powers, gaining love and complacence of women. That's wonderful. And then saying that sarcastically there. Discovering and obtaining treasures, uncovering secrets and becoming invisible, compelling others to reveal secrets, evoking spirits to rapidly achieve any task, destroying things, and commanding natural forces. So obviously here, this is all stuff that could be used in seems like negative ways for the most part, but becoming invisible even to spirits, that's quite the trick. Teleporting anywhere without harm. Opening any lock, entering any house, reading thoughts, helping or harming people. Thwarting plots and controlling rebellious spirits. Bestowing talents and virtues. Purifying substances. So that's in that one. Next one is knowing minerals and or plants, giving healing abilities. Power over fierce animals, knowing their language. Wow, that's quite the thing too. Discerning good or bad intentions in others. Mastery of any art or talent without training. And success in lotteries and games of chance. Commanding infernal armies against enemies. And understanding hell's plans, okay, and thwarting them. So you have a mix of all different things here. You have some things that seem like there is no good way to use the power that is being described. Then you have others that are sort of could go either way, and then you have others that seem like they're overall a good thing, maybe, possibly. Anyway, let me see here. Let me go back to this section here and finish it out. It says, a magical wand in the form of a serpent biting its tail and a grand magic circle are also depicted in this text. The inclusion of certain words, even the word tarot, that's interesting, among some of the power words and correspondence between some talismans and tarot trumps, which is a type of thing in tarot there, suggests an underlying occult structure to the work's fantasies. And that's the end of that one. Just think about all those powers and how you can apply that to mythological figures and even just characters in fiction today that have what would almost be, you can almost say, are superhuman abilities, or if you want to go towards even more towards pop culture, superhero abilities in some cases. So yeah, that's quite the list of things there. that it talks about. And again, this is from a work that is most, according to the author and other people, apparently, it is a work of fiction. It is a story about creation of magical items that can give powers. Let me see here. Section 8, the gold finding hen. The text describes a ritual for hatching a magical black hen that can detect hidden gold, originally used by Ormasus, father of Zoroaster. I know that name from somewhere, but I'm not totally familiar with it, so I'll leave it there. The true method, it says true in quotation marks there, involves many things here. This is where it starts to get into the actual descriptions. So, let me see here. So this is where I started noticing that it was sort of giving summaries of how to do things. So, but anyway, I'm looking at the rest, and it's all descriptions. Okay, here it says, overall, the text exemplifies the absurdities to which the Black Pullet descends in its occult fantasies about gaining wealth through magical means. So that seems to actually be. Let me look here. Okay, yeah, there's a little more. So actually, now we're getting to the conclusion of this book here. So I guess this will be the last of these. Good thing I'm planning ahead and have more for tomorrow night. So we're getting to the conclusion of the book now. Again, like I said, I'm skipping through most of part 2. The author, which is Arthur Edward Waite, concludes that the ceremonial literature of magic, both white and black, ultimately aims at low material gain and pleasure through trickery and occult means on a larger scale than normally possible. The rituals considered, in quotation marks, composite, are the most popular, with the chief example being considered white in essence, but actually goetic, dark, in parentheses, in nature, aiming at goals like recovering stolen goods, invisibility, finding buried treasure, and seeking love and favor. Waite argues that the category of people attracted to such magic, and keep in mind this is according to the author there, are outcasts, incompetent, ignorant, lonely, deformed, hideous, and impotent, who cannot obtain satisfaction through normal means. I'm glad I gave that disclaimer, because that is definitely the author's point of view there. So it says, modern occult students who take grimoires seriously usually assume some real knowledge behind them. This has been promoted by false ideas about occult sanctuaries. So now I'm starting to see here where he's coming from. He's talking about all these things, but it almost sounds like he's saying most of it's doesn't even do anything, which I think can probably be argued, depending, because just based on what the paranormal and unexplained in general. I don't know. I don't think it would all still be the practice of magic in any way would still be around if it didn't do anything today. So, Waite considers magic's attempts to compel infernal and holy powers for trivial or evil purposes to be fundamentally wrong. Seeking occult power and knowledge without learning, seeking occult power and knowledge without learning is essentially evil, it says, again, according to the author there. Ceremonial magic rituals are not part of the true secret tradition, but represent a stream of averse tradition stemming from preoccupations during exile, as evidence in certain mystical literature. So let me see here. Studying these rituals is only justified to separate them from the authentic tradition they may have come to overlay. The so Waite aimed to preserve the real tradition instead of the what was covered there, I guess. So that's the end of that book there, and I really did enjoy reviewing as much of it as we could, because there was a lot of interesting things in there. It's just there's also a lot of ceremonies and stuff that we don't need to go into, but and we'll see maybe if I can find some other things that are similar that go into things more of a historical. I have one book in mind. I may have to just do just a 1 or 2 shows on it because it's not in public domain yet. But so may just be like grab a couple of summaries of it from the web and then read those. But yeah, so I enjoyed doing this series, and I think I'm over time. So we'll talk to you all in the next episode of Salsidoparanormal. Take care.